I've already proven that I can make a couple $1 million a year. I'm not driven to make $20 million a year. I don't care about being a billionaire. You know, if I make $1 million more this year than last year, my life will not change in any fundamental way. So I look for opportunities to help as many people as possible and help Tim go from here to here and help Sarah go from here to there, right? And when I'm dead and gone, all I really want is for people to show up to that funeral or have a conversation, you know, with other people who knew me and just say, that guy helped me. That's all I want. That one sentence. I just want people to be able to say, that guy helped me. Remember that. That's what drives me right now.
Just to kind of set the frame for this is like, man, I want to have conversations around that intersection of mental health, well-being, the inner game, if you will, and success and business. You know, and why it's so imperative that we start looking inward to change things externally. Right. And dude, I don't know if you remember this. The first time we met was actually, you came in and consulted, I think, for Revel Systems.
Oh, yeah.
Back in 2015.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. And I remember we probably had like one or two one-on-one conversations or one-off conversations. And it was just, you know, I was like a hungry AE and I was doing pretty well. And I was like, dude, I want to get promoted. You know, like, what do I do? And it was just such straightforward, but simple guidance around like being vocal to leadership, asking what you can do, you know, like really allowing them to give me the playbook to be like, yeah, go, you know, help out here, do this, make sure you're hitting these numbers. And it was sure enough, it was like, you know, a month or two later, I got promoted into that.
So I actually gave you good advice. Good.
Yeah, I know. So I really wanted to pump you up for, you know, for the audience.
My confidence level is high now for this.
Yeah. And where I like to start is just to set some context for us before we kind of dive into the internal piece, the internal game, the important part of taking care of yourself for success. But just to set some context first is, can you share what you're doing now for work?
Yeah. So I run my own go-to-market consulting business. So I kind of serve as a fractional VP of sales, CRO, and my colleague serves as a fractional VP of RevOps.
Yeah.
I've also been doing some sort of fractional sort of partnership channel manager type roles and teaching people how to build this kind of go-to-network near-bound motion. So I primarily work with tech companies from all around the world, from like seed stage to Series C or so. That's like kind of my sweet spot.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that. Been doing that for almost 5 years now. I also run a community and event called the Surf and Sales Summit. So it's a couple times a year. We take people down to Costa Rica and talk shop about sales and entrepreneurship and business and leadership and stuff like that. And then the other half of the day, we give people surf lessons and eat good food and do fun stuff in Costa Rica on the beach, go to zip lines and things like that, and run the Surf and Sales podcast off of the event. And I've been doing a lot of coaching of late for VPs of sales and CROs and fractional folks as well. So those are my three kind of main jobs right now.
Yeah. How did you, because to be honest, hearing you say that, I'm like, man, it sounds really sexy, right? As like titles and, you know, you're going to Costa Rica and you're doing all this stuff, but how'd you actually get into that?
Well, it came my way. You know, I spent 20 years as a VP of sales, you know, operating and building and scaling sales orgs for tech companies. And I think it was around like 2016, maybe, I started creating more content and just kind of being more active on LinkedIn and really making a concerted effort to grow the size of my network more than anything. And that network I thought was going to help me recruit, save money and recruiting expenses, time to hire, all these kind of areas, and then get some distribution for this book that I had written. Little did I know, this was not planned at all, but little did I know, as I started talking and putting the book out there and stuff like that, I started getting messages from people that was like, hey, I would love to pick your brain about this. I'd love to talk to you about this. And people were basically asking me, like, can I pay you to have some conversations? And I remember thinking, this is insane, dude. This guy wants to pay me to talk to me? What the heck? They don't know how stupid I am, right? And I would tell my friends or my family, you know, and you know how friends are. They're like, these people will give you money to talk to your dumb ass, right? It's like, yeah. And so at first I just was doing it for free. And then, you know, I had a friend say, you should charge people for this. And I think I was charging, I don't know, $250 a month to like talk to people once a week or whatever. And I just, started getting more of those, and I started increasing the rate, and, the rest is kind of history. I started diversifying my income streams, running communities, putting on events, wrote a couple more books. And before you know it, the money that I'm earning from all these sort of side hustle things, which I don't think we called it side hustle back then. I don't know what we called it, but the money that I was earning from all these other things on my own was the same as I was earning as a VP of sales. And I had always told myself, like, if I can ever get to that point, I don't need this W-2 anymore. I'll cut the cord and take a risk and see if I can make a go of it, on my own. So yeah, that was the journey. I didn't just quit one day and start from scratch. Yeah. I sort of strategically waited till the risk at least was a little bit less in terms of income. Yeah, but it'll be 5 years October 1st. 5 years October 1st. Awesome. Which, by the way, is the longest I've ever worked at any one job.
Dude, it's funny you say that. That's how I feel with mine too. I'm coming up on, or I think I just passed 4 years. Yeah. Yeah. And while I didn't make any money for the first 2 years, but it's still been the longest. Yeah. The longest job.
Still counts. I mean, think about it. Yeah. The average tenure for an accounting executive is a year and a half or so. Yeah. Average tenure for a Series A VP of sales is like 9 to 14 months or something crazy like that now.
Yeah, that's wild.
My VP of sales jobs, I was always like the early stage guy. It was the guy that Tim called when he had an idea and didn't know how to sell it and just wanted to go from zero to whatever, right? Yeah. So I would be there for 2.5 to 3 years. I'd take the company from no revenue to $20 million, $25 million or so, $100 million valuation. And then I'd be like, I'm out. Too much red tape. Yeah. Tired of thing anymore. People, not my thing anymore. So, I was doubling the average tenure, but still, a lot of old curmudgeon people would probably call me a job hopper for changing jobs every 2.5 to 3 years. I don't think of it that way, but still it's tough to reinvent yourself every few years. So, 5 years on my own now is the longest job I've ever had. It's fairly gratifying.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, I love your story in general, but one thing that just stood out, I was like, hearing you talk about that transition or the kind of the crossover period as you were building that kind of makes it, not that this was your intent, but almost seems like it was pretty seamless. And so I'm curious to ask you, like, as people are thinking about doing more of really what they want to in life, creating a life that just brings them fulfillment and joy and is on their own terms, whatever that means for individuals. I'm curious to get your take on it and maybe some of the challenges you face. And you mentioned a little bit of it, of like, maybe it was imposter syndrome. Don't know if you would call it that, but like, dude, these people want to pay me to chat. What were some of the things that came up?
I still have those moments, Yeah. I get some interest, or I close a deal, or I talk to some friends who work in different fields, and I still have these moments where I'm like, I don't know. I don't know why they want to talk to me. I guess I've accrued some knowledge over the years. And I would actually say that it was pretty seamless. And, I see a lot of people talk about how starting their own business is the hardest thing that they've ever done. That's not my experience. Running this business has been the easiest professional thing that I've ever done.
I love that.
And I think the difference for me is that I spent 20 years or so building and operating before trying to go out on my own. So I had a lot of success, a lot of experience, a lot of kind of, knowledge locked in my head, big network. And I was growing this thing while I was doing the regular job. So I didn't start at, the 1 yard line, to use a football term. I was already at like the 50-yard line when I fully went off on my own. Yeah. So I was always like a kind of risk adverse person. I never really saw myself as an entrepreneur. I valued some security or whatever, especially financial security. So for years, people have been telling me, dude, you need to quit and just go off on your own. Like, you'll make it. There's plenty of people out there doing it that are not as good as you, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, I got kids, I got a family, I got health issues, I got a mortgage, I don't know. Yeah. And so I devised this plan where I'm like, I know I don't really want to do this thing I've been doing anymore, but I'm too scared to pull the ripcord. So if I can just get those income levels to meet, I've de-risked everything. and I'll give it a go for a year. And what's the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that can happen is I fail and I have to go get another VP of sales job. Oh, well, right? But I didn't want to take that risk with no income coming in.
Yeah.
And I had so many different things going on and still do that each of them is de-risked a little bit. We talk a lot about diversification of income, but what's funny to me is nobody tells a solopreneur type, hey, you need to diversify your income too, Tim.
Yeah.
It's like all that knowledge that we gained when we were working for somebody else is out the door.
Yeah.
Because if you're running, your community or your events or whatever, but that's all you do, you have massive risk.
Yeah.
So instead of just doing that, I ask questions of people like you or people like our friend Alex Kramer or whatever. It's like, well, what else are you doing?
Yeah.
The money coming in through real estate investments. Do you do influencer marketing and are you getting paid through those channels? Are you running a kind of affiliate marketing kind of motion where you're referring clients of yours to different software vendors and getting paid that way? Are you getting sponsors? Have you written a book that you get some royalties for? So I have all of these different irons in the fire at all the time. So if any one of them tanks or folds up shop, which a couple of them have, I'm okay still.
Yeah.
Right. And I think because of all the culmination of all these things and how I went about it, it has not been hard for me.
Yeah.
It really hasn't.
Yeah. It's actually really timely that you share that about the diversification something in recent months, just thinking about as I transitioned from when I first left tech, I started a clothing company for 18 months. I was designing and manufacturing men's workout shorts from recycled ocean plastic overseas and did that. And then a couple of weeks before I actually got my inventory in, I switched to work with men more directly, to do tryout coaching, right? Try out maybe a community cohort. It took me a year before I even called myself a coach, but ended up doing it. And, it's now what I do full time. And the challenge has been, though, I've had really like one offering, one product. And so I've almost been in a proof of concept. Last year was kind of more of a proof of concept. Now it's, off and running and rolling, but realizing, man, this is one lane I'm in right now, and there's a lot of risk there. And all of my business, all my leads are coming through LinkedIn. So if I take a few days off of posting or engaging, it's like, man, that part of, that lever is shut off and coming in. Right. So just thinking about different ways, different products, or there's books or events or, some kind of recurring model.
That's the right way to think about it. So you take this coaching model that you have, and let's say that I'll just make up numbers. Let's say it's a 6-figure income stream for you, right? Yeah. And now you think, okay, how can I create more of these things, or how can I double this? So you're not going to get rich most likely off of writing a book. But what a book does is it's like a calling card for you. Put the word out there, and it's something you can send around that helps your name go to the right places. It's referred in a viral way without your knowledge. If you're doing okay with the book, you maybe make a couple $100 a month in royalties. So again, not getting rich, but now your cell phone bill is paid for.
Yeah.
Right. Now you're part of your whatever other bill, electric bill is paid for or whatever. And you start chipping away at these kinds of things. But that book, then the immediate revenue from it is small. But somebody reads that book, costs them $10. They follow you on LinkedIn. They decide down the road at one point they need coaching. Now they spend more money with you. You can put events on, men's health event in such and such place. Put this event together, charge people a couple $1,000, do that once or twice a year. Now you just made an extra 30, 40 grand doing that. You do influencer marketing. If you're getting your LinkedIn profile and other social profiles to the point where you have lots of followers and visibility, you can get paid a couple $1,000s a post right now on LinkedIn, just for, talking about a brand that you believe in a little bit. Yeah. That shit all adds up, and you can keep going. Right? Real estate properties, like I said, you do this podcast enough, you can get somebody to sponsor the podcast. It's a mistake for somebody who's going into business on their own to just do the one thing only, in my mind, in this kind of coaching, consulting arena that we're both playing in, right? Yeah. The more irons in the fire, the better.
I'm sure there's a level of it where it can be too much. You're trying to do too many things. It seems like one of those things where, look, anything could work, but trying to do everything.
Yeah.
There's
so what are some hacks for that, right?
Yeah.
Well, one hack is work with other people. My surf and sales business, there's 2 other partners in it. I ran Thursday night sales. I had a partner. I do a podcast. I don't even do the podcast myself. I have a co-host with the podcast. So roping people that you know and trust and love into some of these things, that's an easy way to get more shit done. It's half of the load, right?
Yeah.
The other thing is make sure that what you're doing is something you love and you enjoy doing and is not tedious kind of work. So you're trying to find that intersection of something you love that's high impact, but it's also low effort, right?
Yeah.
So every single day I have companies and brands coming to me saying, hey, Scott, here's a list of 50 prospects we're trying to get a hold of. Do you know any of these people? All I have to do is spend 5 minutes scanning the list, scanning down the list. Boom. I see Tim Perreira's name. I'm like, I know this guy. What do you want me to say to him? So the brand gives me some guidance. So I reach out to Tim and I'm like, hey man, I don't know if you have this problem or not. If you do, these guys want to talk to you. If you end up taking that meeting and you end up buying their software, 10 to 20% on that, just for making an intro, right? Everybody's happy. I helped you solve a problem. I helped this brand.
Yeah.
That's high impact, high income, low effort, right?
Yeah.
So yes, everybody has a bandwidth or capacity issue at some point in time. So you get good at looking for opportunities to earn that don't require much effort, don't necessarily require you to do all of the heavy lifting. These are the things that I keep my eyes peeled for all the time.
Yeah. Scott, what is it that you feel makes you tick?
I think that I have always been a very competitive, very driven person. I grew up playing every sport under the sun, super competitive tennis and soccer player. I got a full ride in soccer and tennis. So I played 2 sports in college for 4 years. So I had that kind of going for me. And I knew I wanted to do something, but I didn't really know what professionally. So I studied psychology and religion in school. I didn't want to work yet. So I went to grad school to learn more. Got a learning and instructional design master's degree. Candidly, still didn't know what I was going to do with myself. So I was like driven, but without purpose. I was directionally driven, directionless, but driven.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Totally.
But then, right before my 23rd birthday, I got super, super sick. Ended up with ulcerative colitis, lots of, immuno challenges, immune suppressive challenges, whatever you want to call it, chronic kidney stones, ended up with colon cancer, had to have 9 major abdominal surgeries, 4 kind of emergency life-saving surgeries. While I was in the hospital, I was sucking down opioids left and right. So by the time I got healed from my illness and clean off of dope, I was 27 years old and I'd never really worked a proper job in my life. And so here I am, this hyper competitive driven person that had everything taken away from him. And I just needed an avenue to apply it. Right. And when you deprive somebody of, living a normal life for so long, that person goes one of 2 directions. And the positive direction is they are shot out of a cannon in terms of their sense of urgency, because I'm trying to make up for lost time now. I also know how fragile life is and how anything can be taken away from me at any given moment. So I'm not here trying to waste any time or waste any moments.
Yeah.
I know how precious each opportunity is. So I'm not interested in half-assing anything. I'm also not interested in spending any time around people who are not trying to do something special, because I am. And so that was how I kind of began. And that was how I got into sales. Is I had a friend suggest to me, sales could be good for you because you're built this way. You think this way. You've been through this stuff. So initially what drove me was get good at sales, make up for lost time, make some money, build a career. I realized really quickly that I got less fulfillment from closing deals on my own and more from helping the people around me. I had 2 buddies that I used to surf with at my first job, and I was the number 1 rep and they sucked. And I was realizing well, this is no fun. These guys can't afford this thing I want to go do. They can't do this because they don't have, I'm like, this is bullshit. I got to help these guys do good. So we're on the same level here. So I just started coaching my friends, and all of a sudden they got to the top of the leaderboard. And then I got moved into sales leadership. And then my mission became, I want to be a VP of sales and I want to be the best VP of sales I can. From there, the mission became, okay, I know how to be a VP of sales. How do I start getting some of these 6 and 7 figure exits, right? And kind of generationally change the game for myself and my family. Now, having gone from there through like independence and working for myself, higher levels of financial freedom and whatnot. Now I'm at the place where to me, it's all about impact. How many people am I impacting in a positive way every single day? What kind of legacy am I leaving behind? I've already proven that I can make a couple $1 million a year. I'm not driven to make $20 million a year. I don't care about being a billionaire. You know, if I make $1 million more this year than last year, my life will not change in any fundamental way. So I look for opportunities to help as many people as possible and help Tim go from here to here and help Sarah go from here to there, right? And when I'm dead and gone, all I really want is for people to show up to that funeral or have a conversation, you know, with other people who knew me and just say, that guy helped me. That's all I want. That one sentence. I just want people to be able to say, that guy helped me. It meant a lot. That's what drives me right now.
It sounds like you had this competitive nature growing up playing sports, especially if you played through college. What I'm curious is, what do you feel like was the big transformation for you going through those health struggles for those 4 years? Like, did you go in one person and you came out? I know you mentioned urgency and like your shot out of a cannon, but I'm curious if there were any, like, there was like a big shift to your worldview or.
Yeah, I think that there was. I think I thought I was bulletproof before. I think I thought I had all the time in the world to figure things out. And then I realized that neither of those things are true. I lost a lot of fear. I was always a kind of a wallflower, introverted, quiet type, right? If you and I were amongst all of our buddies, I'm not the loud one. I'm the quiet one. I'm the one that sits there and I have a bunch of, you know, loudmouth, boisterous kind of friends, but I'm the quiet one, right? And shy. And that part of me died off quite a bit through this health process because I realized that part wasn't really serving me in any positive way anymore. And I needed to express more of like who I am, what I want, and go after these things rather than just waiting for some good things to happen to me. And I realized that, knock on wood, I just defeated the hardest thing that I'll ever go through in my whole entire life. So what's the worst that can happen? Yeah. What do I have to be afraid of? What are you going to do? Fire me? The fuck do I care if you fire me? Yeah. Miss my quota? Whatever, right? And that's very liberating when you get to that place, right? When you know no matter what, how bad it gets, like you'll be okay, you'll figure it out. It's not as scary as what you've dealt with before. And I did not have that clarity of thought, you know, prior to that as a 21, 20, 22-year-old. So I think I grew up real fast in the hospital during those years and been able to apply the sort of revised life philosophy from there moving forward.
Yeah, has there been any big changes to how you're taking care of yourself, whether it's physically, mentally, like anything that you do on an ongoing basis to keep this, you know, this life philosophy front of mind?
Yeah, when I was living in San Francisco, I would say surfing was the answer to that because, you go through a stressful day and you go jump in freezing cold water with rocks underneath you and great white sharks, somewhere nearby. It's very hard to focus on anything else. And so what surfing did for me was it forced me to live in the present moment. If you've ever tried paddling for a wave or riding a wave, there's no way you can be thinking about like the deal that you lost or the meeting tomorrow while you're trying to catch a wave. It's impossible, right? So you combine that with this like de-stressing kind of activity, go jump in the cold water. And I used to feel like, huge sigh of relief, like all the stress is gone, wash all the, anger, frustration away, whatnot. So that was big. That was the first thing. I used to do acupuncture all the time as I was trying to rebuild my body from my health scare and challenges. I did it. I started playing like beer league soccer and stuff like that. But then I started picking up injuries. So I started to lose the ability to do some of those kinds of things. And it morphs and evolves, I have a cold plunge in my backyard. I go in this thing multiple times a day. I have a friend who has a sauna. I love to do that kind of stuff. I love to decompress and read by the pool. I eat well. I don't eat junk food, don't eat gluten, don't eat dairy, don't eat sugar, don't drink caffeine, don't drink beer. So these things that you don't pay much attention to earlier in your life or you don't care about, you start to try to optimize a little bit. At least for me, my experience is as I get older, I'm starting to optimize for these things more and more and more. And all of those have this compounding effect of, am I able to be my best self today, get as much done as possible as I can, still enjoy myself, still find a balance of working hard and playing hard and being a good father and all this kind of stuff. So, it ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
What are I'm sure it will evolve again at some point.
Yeah.
But before you know it, you'll ask me in a couple of years and I'll be like, well, I play golf 5 times a week.
Of course.
It'll change.
It's the nature of life.
As it should.
Growth and
As it
evolution.
should, I think. Yeah.
Are there any areas that are still challenging for you that maybe you see, whether it's work or just maybe it's your mental state, how you're thinking about something, overthinking, not, providing yourself with enough balance in life? Is there anything that still is just not a challenge?
I mean, I left to my own devices, I will work and work and work and work. So I have to fight really hard to disconnect and to try to take breaks, whether that's a break in the middle of the day or whether that's a vacation of some sort. So that's a battle that I still fight. I beat myself up a lot. My family is from Western New York. And if you know anything about people from Buffalo, Niagara Falls, it's like, woe is me, sky is falling, something bad is going to happen at any moment kind of attitude.
Yeah.
So my initial gut reaction to things is often negative and kind of pessimistic in the beginning. So that's challenging for me, trying to overcome that and stay positive all the time about as many things as I can. The last couple of years have been a challenge for me that the first couple of years weren't as far as work goes. I feel like sometimes I'm working harder for less than I was before. Some of that is, I'm sure, what everybody's feeling and a result of different market shifts and changes and things like that. But I'm 47 years old now, I'm not getting any younger. I don't want to work 17 hours a day like I used to anymore, nor can I.
Yeah.
So, figuring out how to maintain or earn more while working less, that's a challenge that I'm trying to solve for right now.
Yeah.
My health is always a challenge. It will always be a challenge. It's a constant up and down. I think I manage the emotional impact of that pretty well, but the physical impact of that is difficult sometimes, So
what do you
I don't want to paint
that?
this rosy picture. Well, without going into like too much graphic detail, if I might work really hard for 6 to 12 months to get back in shape, rebuild my body, and I might have a flare-up of some sort, autoimmune related, and that just completely derails me or throws me off course. And, listen, even if I get the flu, the way that my body is constructed together now through surgeries and organs that I no longer have and stuff like this, I'll lose like 10, 15, 20 pounds in like a week or two.
Wow.
All the muscle could just like disappear like that. I've got joint issues and arthritis issues. And because of all the medications I've taken over the years, my tendons are weak, my bones are weak. So I've had 1,000,001 injuries. So, you want to do stuff like try to get back into playing tennis and then I go pop some meniscus. I'm like, well, now I'm fucked. Can't do that. I rebuild it again, try it again, pop meniscus again. So these things, like, they're a challenge, Part of it is because of my health challenges. Part of it, I'm sure, is just getting older in general and not being able to do the stuff that I used to be able to do.
Yeah.
But all those things, it's not just a mental toll. It's like a physical toll. It's like, oh my God, I got to work my butt off now just to get back to where I was all over again. And I've had to reset like that dozens upon dozens of times, I don't want people to listen to this and think like, this guy's got it figured out. He doesn't have any problems or challenges. Because listen, my life is a fucking mess, just like everybody else's.
Yeah.
Right? The only difference is, I think my approach is sort of, so what?
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask is, how do you
your
navigate?
Life is a mess. Like, so what? Well, because everybody's life is a mess.
Yeah.
I've never met one person who doesn't have a bunch of fucked up problems.
Yeah.
I've never met one person who's going through something that if I really sat and thought about it, that I wouldn't say, I don't think I could do that.
Yeah.
You know, if you and I had deep conversation for long enough, I would find out something that you've been through in your life. And my response would be, I have no idea how you dealt with that. I could never deal with that.
Yeah.
So the only difference is, you know, some people allow it to consume them and bring them down. Mm-hmm. And other people just say, fuck it. You know, I've got these problems. So what? I can either pout about it and let it hold me back, or I can find a way to use it as a superpower to propel me forward.
Yeah.
Right. I have physical challenges. I have health challenges. Okay. Well, how do I weaponize that in a positive way?
Yeah.
Well, for one thing, I empathize a lot with people going through certain things.
Yeah.
That empathy allows me to create strong bonds and connections with people. That means the people who work for me or work with me know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I give a shit about them. They know I give a shit about them. They work that much harder for me. When they work harder for me, they do better. When they do better, I do better. And you just follow that thought pattern. So you find ways to weaponize things in a positive way that are could be perceived as weaknesses or challenges.
Yeah.
That's just the story that I tell myself, at least.
Well, it's a big reason why I want to have these conversations too, because the key point is that we all suffer in some way. We all go through our own shit, right? Whether that is something that happens to us, maybe physically, we deal with an ailment, maybe we lose our job, etc. But really is, Buddha calls them the second darts, right? Is like the self-judgment and shame and guilt and kind of that woe is me, and just feeling like, man, I shouldn't be feeling this way. Like I must be broken because no one else is going through it. And I think the important thing is like, no, man, we're all going through our own shit, in the same way. And how can we shift to say, okay, I can either look at it and feel guilt and shame and maybe not do anything about it or keep trying to avoid it, or see that there's a positive purpose in whatever it is I'm going through.
Yeah.
And at least having that lens, and that then like forces you to look for, hey, what do I need to learn to get through this? What do I need to change? What do I need to do differently? How can I use this to my advantage to make me into the person that can handle this no problem?
Yeah. And I feel all those things that you're talking about, all those second darts. I think for me, I give myself permission to feel them, and I give myself like a 12 to 24 hour pity party grace period. And then it's like, I got to let it go. I got to process it and move on. And the ability to not completely avoid negative emotions, but to accept them and feel them, and then make a conscious decision to say, this thing will not control me any longer.
Yeah.
And move forward, I think is really healthy and really prevalent amongst people who are top performers. And people who struggle and suffer, they end up dwelling on these things.
Yeah.
And ruminating on them, stewing over the things for so long, trying to understand every aspect of it. I am blessed with not needing to understand everything and the reasons why. I don't care.
Yeah.
I felt the thing, that thing fucking sucked. Let me express that it sucked and get it off my chest. Tomorrow, I'm not going to deal with it anymore.
Yeah.
I'll move past it.
Yeah, it's so amazing because we don't actually need to understand it, right? Understanding something is just another concept created from thoughts, and what we're trying to get into is just feel emotions, right? When I talk with my guys I work with, it's like starting to just understand that feelings and emotions, what if they were just signals? What if they're just trying to tell us, hey, you need to pay attention to me real quick. I'm just trying to communicate something to you. Right. And so by you just allowing yourself to be present with those and be like, hey, yeah, let's go 1 or 2 days. Let's feel it. Let's be in it. And then let's flush it. Let's move on to, working through this thing, whatever I need to do that.
Yeah. And that ability to flush those things is super important. Super important, I think.
I saw a clip with Novak Djokovic, and he was saying how every top athlete, right? Every pro athlete deals with negative self-talk. And he's like the top, I don't know the number, you have to 1% or 10%. He's like the people at the top also deal with the negative self-talk. He's like, what they do better though, is they're able to acknowledge it, feel it, and flush it and move.
Yep. That's right.
He's like, don't resist it. Don't try and act like it's not there. He's like, see it, address it, and then you're able to move through it. And I thought it was.
I'm going to misquote this, but another tennis player, Roger Federer, was talking the other day about he has this like 15-second rule in between points. It's like the first 5 seconds, he allows himself to feel the emotion of whatever just happened. The second 5 seconds, he tries to calm himself down, regardless of whatever the emotion is, tries to calm himself down. And the last 5 seconds, he's mentally preparing himself for the next point. And I'm like, damn, where was that when I was playing tennis? Nobody told me that, you know? that's what he's doing. It's the same kind of concept, right? And more of us should apply those type of modalities that Novak and Roger are talking about into our personal life, into our business lives, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't need to be just reserved for top level athletes. Not at all.
What do you think it is? What do you think is either the biggest mistake or the biggest struggle that you see, like the founders or the clients that you have making in regards to, I would say their inner state and how they're handling things?
Well, I think that they tend to try to put all of the emotions that they feel on everybody else. And if they look around and don't see you feeling the highs and lows the same way that they experience them, then they judge you in a negative light. You know, like Tim doesn't care as much because he's not bleeding out like I am that we're missing our number. Right? It's like, oh, come on, let's have a reality check for a second. You own fucking 50% of this company. Tim owns nothing in the company. Of course, he's not going to care as much as you. Let's be honest about that. Trying to completely separate the person from the production. Founders do this all the time. They don't want to have any conversation with somebody about their personal life or what's going on. It's just all business all the time. You know, what's your pipeline look like? When is this going to close? Right? All the way down to like one-on-ones. You ask most reps, if you ask most reps, what are your one-on-ones like? It's like a pipeline review. It's a deal by deal breakdown. It's a forecast. When I used to have one-on-ones with people, first of all, I never mandated one-on-ones. I only had one-on-ones if somebody asked me and wanted it. Second of all, my one-on-ones, we would go walk around the block. So Tim comes to me, you know, you want to have a one-on-one. I'm like, let's go for a walk, dude. I don't want to sit in the fucking conference room and chat. So we'd start going for a walk, you know, and I'd be like, tell me what's going on, dude. You just moved to Austin. Like, tell me about your place. How's your dog handling it? How's your girlfriend handling it? And I just let you talk. And, you know, you let people talk. They let things out. You pay attention to those things. You ask them more about these things. And I would try to help, you know, give advice and help people solve their kind of life problems. Because I sort of thought, well, if I can make this guy make better decisions and do better in his life, if he has a better life, he'll probably produce better. I would never talk. I never talk to people about their deals or anything like that. It would only be at the very end where I would be like, hey, what's like a blocker that's holding you back that I could get out of your way to help you sell more? And then maybe they'd tell me something, and then I'd try to go remove that thing. And my ability to remove the thing that they asked me to remove is the critical piece where somebody believes in me. If I don't go get it removed, they don't think I have their back. If I get it removed and help them, they know I've got their back, right? And I could count on two hands the number of founders who operate that way or would do something like that. So they don't take the time to understand their team and give a shit about them as human beings. It's all about the production. That's a huge common mistake.
Which tells me, I mean, that's just simply just a reflection of how they view their own life.
Not you go there. I'll let you take them there. Like the psychological
that's of course it.
Part of it.
Because when I think about, I'll have consultations or something with guys and they're talking about maybe the different areas of their life that they're struggling and, but they're like, but I just want to focus on one simple area. And I'm like, man, you got to understand, like, you're everywhere you go. You're at the center of everything. The human being is there first. And then your results, your production is based off of the quality of your state, of your being, of your mental state, right? You're not just a robot especially in sales, right? There's so many soft skills and attunement to your customers and the cycle and who you need to bring in and just, There's like this like a spidey sense almost that's involved, right? The great reps have it. The great leaders have it. They have this sense of what's going in. They're really plugged in and they're tuned in. And that's because it's more than X's and O's and zeros and ones. It's about the people. And so anytime I see someone who's trying to block off one part of their existence and just focus on, no, I just need to look, I don't want to worry about all this other shit. All I need to do is like, just go hit numbers and produce. Right. And I think it speaks to a deeper level of us being conditioned to try and perfect our external circumstances to feel okay on the inside, to feel worthy or successful, whatnot. But it's always to the degree that they can understand themselves. Right. And I think that's what you show. You've been through a lot of shit that has set you up to.
Certainly people with a higher level of self-awareness, I have found, are easier to work with, better leaders, and build better companies.
Yeah. I think the hard part with that is everybody thinks they're self-aware.
You got any tests or quick tips to like shatter that belief system to help somebody realize they're actually not self-aware? I could use that.
Yeah, I need to put together a cheat sheet. One of my red flags is if somebody tells me that they're really self-aware. I go, okay, I'm going to note that. And that's, we're going to revisit that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. I always found that if you could not articulate some of the things that you're struggling with, or some of the things that you're weak at or deficient at, if you can't articulate those things and you kind of cover it up a little bit by only talking about the good things or saying like, well, I'm pretty good at like a lot of different things, I don't have any like one weakness, that's like massive red flag to me.
Yeah.
I think over the course of this conversation, I think I've already thrown myself under the bus like 4 or 5 times. Like, I'm actually useless at most things in life, completely. There's only like 2 things that I'm really, really good at. So I try to receive feedback well.
Yeah.
I think that I tend to be defensive initially. So my initial reaction is like I'm being attacked. I'm on defense.
Yeah.
It takes me a while to absorb the actual information that comes my way. But I think I'm trying to be pretty good at it. It's something that I struggle with every single day. That's something I need to work on, is like hearing that feedback, accepting it, and then doing something about it. And I try to be good at doing something about it when I've had time to reflect and be like, you know what, Tim was right in his feedback to me, but it's a challenge. It's a challenge.
Yeah.
Might always be a challenge for me.
Yeah. Probably, something I struggle with too. Yeah, definitely. What do you think that people misunderstand most about you?
Misunderstand about me? Wow. I've never been asked that question before. I think because I get defensive initially, and because my immediate reaction is sometimes perceived as pessimistic, that I think people think that I'm more negative than I actually am. Because I'm actually like a long-term optimist. You don't survive the things that I've survived if you're pessimistic, right? And so most people only kind of react to the initial response that I give them. And they don't take the time to see what I do afterwards, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm the type, in my business, for example, I'm the type of person who's like, if it's my worst month ever, I'm like, this is my worst month ever. The fucking sky is falling. Like I'm going to have to go get a job. Oh my God, like what's going to happen?
Yeah.
And I'll express that, right? And a friend of mine or my girlfriend or somebody will be like, oh my God, shut up. It's like so, pessimistic or whatever. But for me, it's like, that's how I feel in the moment. I have to get it out. But watch what I do after that.
Yeah.
Because I don't sit around and mope after that. No, I do the opposite. I start grinding. I start working my ass off. I start doing more and more and more and more and fighting to like overcome that. And at the end of the day, you back me into the corner. I'm like, I'm definitely going to be okay. Right. So I think that could be one thing, is people perhaps have a perception that I'm more negative than I think that I am.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. I think, because I know you have a big, you have a large following on LinkedIn too. And, not everybody 100% of the time loves, what we post. So I didn't know if there was also anything that comes to mind.
I get yelled at all the time over there. You know, I try to talk about things that not that many people talk about.
Yeah.
Sometimes those things are a little bit taboo. Sometimes they're things that I perceive the powers that be don't really want the small folk to understand. So I try to educate them in this regard. And I have some, you know, opinions on the state of things that other people don't disagree with. And I catch flack for that stuff. But I consistently hear when I have conversations with people, I consistently hear that one of the things people like about me is that I'm the same person in real life as I am on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You know, there's no real difference. So I guess, you know, I'll take the bad as long as I'm still getting that kind of feedback.
Yeah. I love it. What is the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Best piece of advice that I ever received.
Could be in a book, could be something you heard randomly, could be from a coach.
Man, I don't even know how to pick just one. I had a friend tell me once that nothing in life means anything other than the meaning that we give it. And that felt really liberating to me because it means that I could tell a story about whatever's going on in whatever way that I felt best served me.
Yeah.
So sometimes I tell myself a delusional story because it makes me feel better.
Yeah.
I might hang up the phone with a prospect and be like, that person's an idiot. It doesn't have anything to do with I sold badly. That person's just an idiot, which is probably not true, but I feel better in that moment. You know, you can apply it to this health crisis that I've had, right? Well, what does it mean? Well, it could mean I'm limited forever, or it could mean I have a superpower that other people don't possess. Mm-hmm. And so I have the ability to use it. So that made me feel like I have a choice in terms of how I respond to whatever it is that's going on around me, which I've always felt was like very empowering.
Yeah. That
I'll stick with that one.
Yeah. Dude, that would actually be mine too. It was
really,
I heard the same idea. Everything in life is neutral and our mind creates meaning. When I was at my lowest point, I'd just been let go from my job 4 years ago. And it shook life as I knew it at that point. I was like, oh my gosh, it's me. I was like, this depression I had been going through, this, you know, all of these struggles. And I'm like, it's been me. And it's been this story that I have been telling. I wasn't better overnight. I had a lot of work to do, but that was the thing that completely shifted how I view the world, how I viewed life. And it gave me a clear direction again to be like, all right, this is the shit that we really need to work on if we want to turn stuff around.
Yeah. That's so interesting that we essentially landed on the same piece of advice.
Amazing.
Cool. Yeah, it's cool.
All right, Scott, just to wrap real quick, I just want to end with a little fun question. And you only get to choose one, right? But Olympics are going on right now. So if you could podium gold, of course, any Olympic sport, what would it be?
Oh, gold medal soccer.
Yeah.
100%. That's my favorite sport. It's always been, even though I did individual sport and team sports always meant, more to me. I will say that the coolest sport that I've been watching in the Olympics, that is like my passion or my hobby now, is like watching the Olympic surfing. So if I deviated from, my first answer and there was a second answer, I'm cheating here, I would probably say go win the Olympics in surfing, because these guys were surfing in Chiapu in Tahiti, and the swell was like really small. And if anybody watched the Olympic surfing, that wave was still like 10 feet tall and terrifying. And I can't begin to tell you like how insane that wave is and how dangerous it is to surf that place and how much bigger that wave gets. So I had like massive respect for people when I was watching the surfing on the Olympics.
Dude, was it, I don't know if it was in Surfer, maybe it was probably like 20 years ago now. I think it was Laird Hamilton.
Yes, it was Laird Hamilton. Yes.
The piece I remember, the stat I remember, unreal. And I think it was in that article, they said the lip of that wave that was crashing down, they're like, had about the same amount of water as an Olympic-sized swimming pool.
Can you imagine? Unless you've surfed in any sizable kind of swell, I don't think people can comprehend how big and scary it is.
Yeah.
Truly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Man, Scott, thanks again for coming on, dude. I appreciate the combo. I just want to wrap with where can people find you? Where can they learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's the obvious, easy spot. You can check out surfandsales.com if you want to look for an alternative sales conference this year or next year. And my consulting website is scottleaseconsulting.com if you're looking for help growing and scaling your go-to-market and sales motion.
Brother, thank you so much.
You're welcome, dude. A lot of fun.
Yeah.